Good afternoon. How is everybody? Hello, hello, hello. Happy to be here. The lighting looks weird. Uh-oh. Anywho, we're just gonna keep it moving. Maybe that's better. How you guys doing today? So I'm happy to be here. Debbie Porter with Mom's Mentoring Circle. I am your mom coach. And it has been a month. We have talked about all kinds of things. I've got my laptop open here just to make sure that we're on and to be able to see comments here. They're a little bit easier to see here. But we have had a month and we have talked about some things. We've covered quite a few topics over the past month. We've talked about the mental load that moms carry. We've talked about how much of your past should you share with your children. We talked about having difficult conversations. We even dived into how to talk to your kids about race a little bit. I actually posted a conversation that I had with a podcast, Margaret and Amy, What Fresh Hell. They laugh at the things of motherhood, the moments in motherhood. And so they're normally rather comical. They're pretty funny. I enjoy listening to them. However, they agreed to go on with me and talk about this issue of race and how do we approach it with our children. So we talked about that. And today I just wanted to take some questions and see if you have any questions about things we've talked about this past month or anything at all having to do with motherhood, some of the things we've talked about more recently. I'm here to answer any of those questions. I've come with some questions because there are some common questions that moms have been asking me, not just over the past month, but over the past several months. And so they keep coming up. So it is my assumption that they are pretty common. And so I'm going to address those questions. And if you have questions, you can write them in and I will kind of go back and forth, but I've got 4 questions here that I am asked, maybe 4 or 5 questions that I'm asked quite a bit from moms, at-home moms, employed moms, moms with 1 children, moms with 5 children. Hey, Diane, how are you? So there are just some things that are pretty common to us as moms. Diane, I'm just going to do some questions today, and I've got a few questions that people ask pretty regularly that I'm going to kind of address, but I'm taking any questions that people have, kind of whatever stage or phase of motherhood we're in, and see if we can provide you with some help and some answers. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. The first question that I am asked a lot by moms, it comes up often, is what do I do with the guilt that I feel? And moms all feel guilt for different reasons. There may be working moms that feel guilty because they're going to work and they're not there to see some of the first things with their kids, first steps, first word, things like that. There are stay-at-home moms that feel guilt because they feel like they're not doing enough, they're not equipped, they're not homeschooling, the kids have too much screen time. So there's all kinds of guilt that moms bear. And so this particular question gets asked a lot. And here's how I address that or try to help moms with that. The first thing that I'm always going to suggest is that you give yourself some grace. Because as moms, we are doing the best that we know how to do in any given moment. You don't always know exactly how to handle what's coming up. So we have to take our best, I don't want to say guess, but the best reason we can come up with to do a particular thing or not do a particular thing. So the first thing I'm going to say when you are dealing with guilt as a mom is to give yourself grace. The second thing I'm going to say that we need to do is to make time for yourself. And I specifically use the word make time as opposed to find time for yourself, because you're not gonna find it. It's not sitting around just waiting for you to find it. It doesn't work like that. Our time is busy and jam-packed with so many things that you've got to make time for yourself. And that means putting it down in pen. I've said this before, not pencil, not in a way that it can be something else is going to come up that's more important. Nope, there's nothing more important than you. Nothing. There's nothing more important than you, because if you're not at your best and if you're not on top of your game, it's going to be difficult for you to show up for your family in ways that's going to be helpful, beneficial, and support them. So those are the first two things I would say. Grace, make time for yourself, ditch the whole idea of perfection. I think this is part of the guilt for many of us, is that there's this comparison with what perfect looks like. There's this comparison with other moms. There's this comparison with what I should have done, what she did. I wonder if that was right and if what I did was wrong. So I would say ditch the whole thing about comparison. Hey, Sylvia, how are you? And really go with your gut. What is your gut instinct for your family, for your children, for your relationship? Sylvia, today I'm just doing questions and answers. We've talked about so much over the past month or so that I'm kind of pulling out what some of the common questions have been, and then I'll take any questions also. So we're talking today about what to do with the guilt. Many moms feel a lot of guilt for various reasons. Working moms, stay-at-home moms. If you're a mom at all, at some point you've experienced guilt. So the first two things were to give yourself grace, to make time for yourself. Don't expect to just find time for yourself, or after you've done all the other things for everyone else, then you'll make time for yourself. You're a priority. Ditch the idea of perfection. Stop comparing, and speak over your life and over your intentions. Sylvie says, perfectionism, my thorn in the flesh. Yeah, girl, same. I had to let that go. But I would say the other thing is speak words of affirmation over yourself. For me, it's about taking the scriptures and speaking them over my life. I am who God says I am. I may not feel like it at that moment. I may not look like it at that moment. And I may not be acting like it at that moment. But to take time to speak those things that are not as though they are, and begin to confess over your life and affirm yourself as a mom. And I'm also going to offer, I'll put the link up here if you don't already have it, the ebook, 7 Habits of a Confident Mom, that I recently did. That's free, but I'll just put the link for that here. And those are a few habits that we can put in place to build our confidence as moms. But mom guilt is something that we're all in some shape, form, or fashion managing, dealing with. And I would just say, give yourself grace. Stop comparing yourself to others. Stop with the goal of perfection, and do what is best for you, for your family, and for your kids. And don't offer explanation for it. You don't have to explain yourself or your choices or decisions to anybody. All right, so that's the first question I get asked a lot. What do I do with the guilt? The second question I get asked a lot is, I always start some type of system or organization system, but I don't stick with it and I need help. How do I stay consistent with these systems for organizing? So, Sylvia, you can pop in on this one too. I would love to hear your thoughts on this one. But I would say if you're one of those people that you really want to be organized, you really want to get organized, and you have these great systems that you've either found online or on Pinterest or you've gotten out of a book, and 2 weeks in and then you fall off the wagon and things are just kind of right back to where they were. Here's what I would suggest. Have a schedule and use a timer for 2 reasons. Have a schedule. For instance, Mondays and Wednesdays, laundry day. Tuesdays and Thursdays, bathrooms. Sundays, or either Sunday evening or Saturday morning, I always sit down and write out what I've got coming up for the next week. I've been doing that for years. So whatever day works better for you. For some people, Saturday is better. For some, it's Sunday evening. But at some point on the weekend, have that time to write down the things that you want to get done that week. Even if you write them down by day. And if you don't get it done on that day, it can go to the next day's list and so on. But have some type of schedule that you're using as it pertains to the days of the week and what it is you're trying to accomplish on those days. And then set a timer, right? I'm going to set aside an hour for my meal planning, or I'm going to set aside a half hour to write out my grocery list and whatever. But use a timer to help keep you on target. The other thing I would say is finish one thing before moving on to the next thing. Have you ever been trying to clean up the house and you go to take something into a room where it belongs, and then you get in that room and you realize, oh, I got to clean up this room. So you then start cleaning up that room, and then you take something from there that need, you know what I'm saying? Then you go to the next room to put that away, and stick to one thing at a time. So instead of running back and forth to different rooms, begin to make piles of stuff that needs to go to the bedroom, upstairs, downstairs. And so you're making one trip as opposed to going back and forth. But finish one task at a time as opposed to back and forth in and out of different rooms trying to get one thing done and then getting sidetracked with another. The other thing I would say is stack the tasks with something else if you can. A friend of mine, Shatone Morrison, told me about stacking, habit stacking. And so that kind of looks like this, right? If you've got one habit that you already have in place and you're trying to connect another habit with it, let's say exercise, right? So you're thinking, I'm going to start walking 3 days a week. What can you attach that to that you're already doing as a habit, almost on autopilot, so that it becomes the new habit attached to it? If you go out your house to pick up your newspaper, right? If you have to go to the end of your driveway and get your newspaper, be dressed in your workout clothes so that when you go out to get the paper, just say, okay, these are the days I'm walking. I'm just going to go ahead and walk, and I'll grab the paper when I come back. But attach those things to something else if possible, to then make it kind of go on autopilot like that initial task is that you're already doing. And then lastly, another example of stacking. So I have in my bathroom, and I've had this for years, we had it in our kids' bathrooms too, they're affirmations for the morning. And so they're taped to the bathroom mirror so that once I finish brushing my teeth, as I'm washing my face or doing my makeup or curling my hair, I have my affirmations right there. So I'm not going to go outside without doing my hair or brushing my teeth. I'm not doing that. So, hey, Deborah Mercer, how are you? Oh, you watched the Melody Hobson TED Talk. I'm so glad you watched that, Deborah. That's one of my new favorites. So today I'm just taking questions. Deborah, I'm just taking questions and answers. I'm kind of putting out there some questions that I get asked a lot. And then if you guys have any, I'll take those too. And then if not, then I'll pop off once I'm done. But I'm talking right now about how to stay focused when you're trying to be organized and create a system. Uh-oh, my light went out, you guys. There we go. And so we were talking about stacking different tasks on top of others. And I was speaking about how when I'm washing my face, brushing my teeth, doing my hair, doing my makeup, I have my affirmations, my confessions over my life, my day, the intention that I want to set for the day. All of that is on my bathroom mirror. And so I'm not going to forget to do that because I'm not going to forget to do my makeup or wash my face or do my hair or brush my teeth. So try to put those things, as far as organizationally, try to attach them to things that you're already doing. We are so quick. A lot of us, most of us as moms, we're on autopilot and we do things before we even realize it. I'll put stuff away and then I'm looking for it and I realize I already put it away. So those autopilot things, try to attach new habits to those. All right, the third question I get asked rather often is, I don't always enjoy being a mom. I need help. And that's just real. That's just real. And a couple of things as we're, diving into that one, but that's a comment or a statement that moms make. And usually we make that comment or that statement when we feel overwhelmed. Usually it's just because there's so much going on that it's hard to enjoy in the moment when there is this feeling of being overwhelmed. And so I would again say release the pressure that you're putting on yourself to be a particular thing or to be like a particular person who you think is a great mom. Release the whole perfection thing, which we talked about earlier. But begin to release yourself from some of that pressure to be anything other than who you are or in comparing yourself to other moms. The other thing I would say is stop rehearsing regrets. We have a habit. We all have it. That voice that kind of is just going on in your head, reminding you of things that you either don't want to be reminded of, that you're not proud of, that you're not happy with. We are oftentimes our worst critic. And so I would say to interrupt those kinds of conversations that we have going on in our head, you really almost have to directly interrupt it, maybe even out loud. Great work, Deb. Thank you, Margaret. How you doing? It's good to see you. But when you think about, and I've had more than one mom tell me, I'm not enjoying this. I'm not enjoying being a mom. This is not going how I thought it would go. This is not what I had planned. Many times it's overwhelm mixed with these past regrets, right? And so the whole idea of us not striving for perfection is big because that's just not real. And so when you have these ongoing thoughts about regrets or things you wish you had done differently with your kids, look, we all have them. We all have them. And you know why? Because now we're sitting here. And so 2020 is always perfect vision when you're looking back. And so as opposed to looking at those as regrets, look at those as moments that you've learned from, that hopefully your kids have learned from, but choosing to rehearse that over and over again is not going to help. So interrupt that thought. Interrupt that thought with one of your affirmations, something that you've been confessing over your life, what God's word says. Who does God say I am in this moment? With forgiveness, we've got to be able to forgive ourselves. We can't forgive others. I find many times that people that have a hard time forgiving people, it's because they have a hard time of forgiving themselves as well. So interrupt those constant running tapes of regrets with a reminder of really, we do the best that we know how to do at that given moment as a mom. We learn, we grow, we develop, we go through different seasons of motherhood. And absolutely, looking back, yeah, we can say, oh, I would have done that differently. Yeah, but you know what? We only have right now. And so regretting those things that are behind us really slows us up. My kids and I, we had a movie we used to watch. Edna Mode was the character, and I forget what the name, I think it was The Incredibles. But she would always say, never look back, darling. It distracts from the now. And so that was kind of our running joke. And still to this day, to each other in the family, that's just kind of the thing we remind each other. Never look back, darling. It distracts from the now. And so the other thing I would say is as you're starting your day, start with intention. Listen, get up before everybody else. Take some time for yourself so that your day is not, you're not like kind of jumping out the bed and having to dive into everything. Take a moment to have some time to yourself, whether you're journaling, exercising, whatever it is for you, having your coffee, watching the birds outside your window sing, whatever it is. Choose to start your day not in a rush, not in a hurry, not having to jump out the bed, but saving those first moments for yourself. And then the other thing I would say is, if need be, hire a life coach. Shameless plug, right? But seriously, there are moments that there are things in our life that we just need some support around setting those goals, being held accountable, and being able to see the needle moving forward. And it's not always the best decision to put that pressure and that responsibility on your friend, right? For your friend to have to constantly hold you accountable for goals you're setting and things you're doing. Your friend just wants to be your friend. So if you need that, that's available. That's available to you. Okay, so that's the third question that I'm often asked. And then there's one more. There's one more question that I'm asked often that I'm going to address here. And then if you have any questions, please put them up. And if not, we'll end with this last question. The last question that I'm asked a lot is, how do you focus on self-care with everything else going on? And here's the thing. Here's how I begin to look at it. If I don't take care of me, I'm not available or at my best to do the other things that my family is going to need for me to do. So I never really put it last. It never became an issue of I don't have enough time for self-care. Because here's the problem. If I'm waiting till the end of everything, I'm too tired for self-care. I'm going to fall asleep on the couch or something. So here's the thing that I want you to think about. Take the step and do something for you. Just put it down on the calendar, check with everybody, make sure it's not in conflict, put it down in ink, share it with everyone else in your household so that everybody knows on this weekend particularly, or on this particular Saturday, or whatever it is, mom is unavailable. If you can leave the house, all the more, especially if you are a stay-at-home mom, you live and work in the same house. And so sometimes you just need to get away from that. If you are a working mom, maybe send all of them somewhere and then you get the house to yourself if that's what you want. But you've got to start with the step of planning for it. The second thing is ask for the support you need to be able to do that. If that's your husband, if that's your kid's father, if that's grandma and granddad, whatever the support is you need around that, speak up and ask for it. Why we struggle with that is very interesting to me, because there's nothing we would not do for our kids or provide for them. But when it comes to providing for things like that for ourselves, we begin thinking of it as being selfish. Self-care is not selfish. It is not selfish. It is mandatory. So as you're thinking about how do I approach self-care being a practice in my life, what I do, what I do, take the step, ask for the support you need, make the time, because you're not going to find the time, and do it in bite-sized pieces, right? If you're saying, I really can't take a weekend away. Okay, can you take a Saturday morning to yourself? Can you take a Friday afternoon to yourself? It's not selfish. And if you don't do it, hey, Margaret, how are you? If you don't do it, it will show. It will show. Sylvia says, every Sunday evening, I go through my calendar for the upcoming week, combining or stacking my events, chores, etc. If I don't, my week seems unproductive. Absolutely. Absolutely. Margaret says, self-care is not selfish. It is not. And so the idea of talking ourselves out of it, listen, I am no good to anybody if I haven't gotten sufficient amount of sleep. Sleep is a form of self-care. Yep, it is. It is. Say yes to you more. Listen, we say yes to these kids all the time because we want to see a smile on their face, right? We want them happy and we want them smiling. And then you look at mom and she's frowning and angry. Saying yes to you more. Now, I'm not saying that means you have to say no to them, but what I am saying is if you're willing to constantly sacrifice you for the betterment of your family, I have a news flash for you. It's not necessary. You don't have to set yourself on fire to keep everybody warm. Not necessary. We don't have to do that. We don't have to do that. So these are the 4 questions that I get asked more frequently than anything else. What do I do with the guilt? I don't always enjoy being a mom. I need some help. And that one, you know, I think that the woman that says that to me, I always think of her as so brave, because many of us in different seasons of motherhood have been thinking that and we wouldn't dare utter it. So the mother that has the courage to reach out and say, yeah, this is not fun. I'm not liking this right now. I need a new perspective. I got to figure this out. I've always said that woman is brave. That mom is brave. And that's a mom that knows that she's got to go for what she needs, because at this moment, she knows that she's running on empty at that point. So that's always a question well, not always, but that is a question I get often. I don't always enjoy being a mom. I need help. And then the 4th one was, how do you focus on self-care with everything else going on? It's not selfish. It takes planning. It takes putting some systems in place in your home so that you know when you're leaving. I'm a proponent of leaving. It's a good thing for a couple days if you can, and let everybody figure it out. When I first started doing this, I would cook, make sure they had food for while I was gone, and I'd come back and all that food was still there. So this is what I'm telling you. Pack an overnight bag. Don't cook. They're going to eat pizza or Chick-fil-A or something like that anyway. So don't even go through all that. Don't go through it. Leave some coupons maybe for them to figure that out, but pack a bag. Go somewhere overnight if you can. Right? You only have to bring your stuff. You don't have to bring any kids' toys or clothes or pacifiers or any of that good stuff. But take the time to make sure that you're making yourself a priority. It's absolutely necessary. Okay, so those are the 4 questions that I get often. Do you guys have any questions about any of the sessions we've done this month? We dove into some deep stuff this month. How much of your past do you tell your kids? The mental load that moms carry, just all that stuff, the remembering of just all the stuff, the doctor's appointments, where the winter clothes are, where the spring clothes are, the birth certificates, the social security cards, just all that running stuff. We talked about that. We talked about having difficult conversations with our kids. How do we step into that? When it's awkward, it's weird, I don't know what to say. I had a great conversation with Margaret. Margaret, it's on here, and Amy on What Fresh Hell podcast, which laughs in the face of motherhood, which we need to do a whole lot more of. But they agreed, and we just had a real conversation about how are we talking about race with our kids. So any questions about any of that, I'm more than happy to answer. If not, I am going to get ready and get off of here. Sylvia says, at least once a month, I need some alone retail time. I don't have to buy anything. Just going out by myself, having a good cup of coffee and window shopping is therapy for me. That's why we're sisters, Sylvia. I feel the exact same way. I just need to smell a couple of really smell good candles at Home Goods, touch a couple of really soft pillows at TJ Maxx, and get something from Starbucks, and I feel so much better. When my oldest son was born, we would just go to Walmart. We would just kind of walk up and down the aisles of Walmart, and I'm not exaggerating. One of his first words was Walmart. He said Walmart. And so Cliff would come home, and Cliff would be like, hey, little man, what'd you do today? We went to Walmart, Daddy. I mean, he would tell me that every day. I'd be like, shh. So yeah, I agree. Doesn't take a whole lot. But I will say, whatever the thing is that you need to feed you, to pour back into you, it is not selfish to do that thing. So that is it. If you guys think of some questions, if something comes up after we get off here and you think, oh, I should have asked that, please just come back and write it. I check the comments often once we're done. Do you remember that, Sylvia? I come back and check the comments, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. Couple of things. I posted the link to the podcast that I did with Margaret and Amy. We did it, I guess it was last week, but it's up and live now. So that's up here. And it was an in-depth conversation about how to talk to our kids about race. So if you want to listen to something, I think that would be worth your time. And I'm also going to put the link up for the ebook, 7 Habits of Confident Moms, just a way for us to be able to kind of hang our hat on some habits and some things that we want to kind of adopt into our lives. And it may spawn others. I mean, clearly there's more than 7 habits, but that was kind of for me where was a sweet spot. I thought was something that was manageable. I thought, it's 7 days in a week. I could adopt a new habit every day if I wanted. So that's all I've got today, guys. I've enjoyed it. And listen, if you do need some support, please send me a message. If you know that, I am not loving this motherhood thing right now, I got to figure something else out, or I don't even know how self-care looks. You're talking about organization in my house. What is that? What systems? What are you talking about? Send me a message. I'd be more than happy to spend some time talking with you and seeing how that could look for you. Okay. I always enjoy coming on here and seeing you guys. Have a great evening, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.